following preview has been rated Bad Weird by Nicho and Good Bad by Chris of the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast. Please check out the full episode when it releases on Sunday. This holiday season, hold on to your ticket as the Good, the Bad, and the Weird podcast takes you on the ride that is sure to renew your Christmas spirit. Starring Tom Hanks as Hero Boy, Tom Hanks as Father, Tom Hanks as Conductor, Tom Hanks as Hobo, Tom Hanks as Scrooge, and Tom Hanks as Santa Claus. This Christmas, Tom Hanks is the Polar Express.
Yeah. Yeah, now that you say all of that out loud, it does kind of add to the confusion of who some of these characters are and what they mean.
Well, I mean, it makes sense.
No.
It makes sense from the perspective of, like, 3 of the characters.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, Polar Express, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, the first fully mocapped animated movie.
And there are parts that look really good.
Yeah.
And then you look over to the left and there's a nerdy boy. Oh boy, he just really makes the movie.
There's a lot to this movie to, there's a lot, but there's also not a lot at the same time because, like, there's elements that are brought into this movie that never get explored, or it's brought up, like, once and it's never touched again.
This is true. This is a classic for our family. I watch it every year, and now you have me questioning whether I should be watching it every year.
Good.
Because, yeah, I mean, I've always liked this movie. I've always, cringed my way through some of the bad CGI parts.
Yeah.
But yeah, now that I've, rewatched it with a critical eye, I have a lot more questions of, what some of these plot points are doing.
Yeah, and as someone who hasn't watched this movie probably since it came out.
Yeah, fair.
I honestly forgot about this movie, to be honest.
I can understand.
As many of Christmas movies, unless they're horror related, I kind of gloss over them and move on with my day, because...
Well, now you know, though, that this movie is horror. As we've discussed, there is an underlying fear that runs through this whole film.
Yeah.
And now that once you see it, it's really hard to unsee.
And I think, not even, the horror moments are the worst part. It's the moments that are the most horrible are the lack of child supervision for most of this.
Yes, and also ready access to the top of a train.
Yeah, which also... I didn't bring this up in the episode, but the hot chocolate butlers.
Yeah, where are they?
Yeah.
Where are they the rest of this film?
Yeah, this movie is just so much spectacle for,
It's just pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just pretty, which is kind of disappointing, because, but also on point, because, I have the book. I read it regularly. It's in our box of Christmas decorations. It's not even on my real shelf. It's just in that box. And, it's pretty, but yeah, it's kind of all that it is it's just Christmas pretty.
Yeah.
And, I get it. I get wanting just pretty background stuff for Christmas time. You're doing other stuff. You're baking Christmas cookies. You're hanging out with the family. Sure, but let's be real. There's better looking films.
Oh, and there's better stories.
Oh, and there's ones that aren't just so piecemealed together. I watch this movie every year, and every year I forget a different section. And not even I forgot that line. No, whole chunks of this movie just fly out of my memory.
Yeah.
The second I'm done watching it.
For good reason, because...
They're bad. Or scary.
And it's just forgettable. I mean, it's kind of a shame that, because Monster House sticks with you.
Monster House does. And, granted... Monster House stylistically is not everyone's cup of tea.
No.
And we've talked about how, especially the very beginning, before we get, the dark coloring scheme, yeah, it's kind of ugly.
Well,
exactly, Charlie.
And that might be part of it, too, is, the style of this movie isn't...
It's not super consistent.
Well, and there's not really a style to it. It just, by today's standards, especially, we're looking at this from an almost 20-year retrospective.
That's true.
Of that... This doesn't really have a style to it. It just feels like generic CGI compared to, say something like
Shrek.
Like Shrek.
Yeah, they're even the background of Shrek, I can point to and be like, that's in Shrek.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that there is a stylistic choice, but it is dropped very quickly in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
The beginning, the train scene, all the way through the ticket flying, and even the hot chocolate dance scene all have a blue and gold hued, classy Christmas vibe.
Yeah.
And then kind of, once we meet Hobo Guy, it all just kind of disappears, and occasionally that style comes back, but it's very brief, and then we lose it again. We lose it hardcore in Christmas Town.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of all over the place, which, I mean, I knew that, but every year I watch it and I then immediately forget that.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to shit on the movie too much because
there's plenty of that's fun.
Yeah, it has a lot going for it, but at the same time, it doesn't.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. They took a book that really didn't have a whole lot for a movie and tried really hard to make a big full-length feature film out of it.
Yeah,
and
so that's an interesting point because I assume Jumanji's a relatively same-sized book.
If I remember right, Jumanji is like a full book.
Oh. Well, I don't know. But, I don't know. It's the same artist, but Jumanji has like its own like...
There's more.
Yeah.
Well, and on top of that, because Jumanji's like whole premise is board game, and board games are broken up just by their nature. Like you have to move across squares and tile pieces and flip cards. Having stuff being broken up and having whole sections be kind of meh is kind of fine. This is kind of hard to justify why it's so disjointed.
I mean, there's random music bits that don't ever get carried over. It's not a full musical. Which
is kind of disappointing because, like, the intro song is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone remembers the Hot Chocolate song. You can hate it or love it.
Yeah.
That's totally, like, fair. Either way's fine. I get it. But, like, it's memorable.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think besides those two songs, the only other song that I ever really remember isn't even really meant specifically for this movie. It's the Josh Groban song at the end, and the only reason I remember it is because I was a huge Josh Groban fan.
Really?
Oh, I loved Josh Groban. I like opera, and he's trained in opera, so...
Okay.
And he brought opera to pulp culture, so, like, I was fangirling over opera.
Okay.
And also, like, if you haven't noticed, he vaguely, if you squint, resembles my husband. It's the brown curly hair.
Okay. I haven't looked at Josh Groban in a hot minute. So.
I understand. I feel like if you're not a fangirl, it's easy to forget what he looks like.
Yeah. Almost as forgettable as this movie.
Yeah, fair. Which is also too bad because, like, Tom Hanks is good. And, like, his voice acting's fairly good. There's only a few spots where you're like, okay, that didn't work. And that's...
Tom Hanks.
It's Tom Hanks. Like,
yeah.
I'm always down for a Tom Hanks film. But yeah, like, the writing of this just didn't quite work.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm going to watch it again every year, but yeah, every year I'm going to re-question why I watch it.
Good. I'm glad I could do that.
You're
ruining traditions.
You're welcome.
But anywho, this has been the Good, the Bad, and the Weird previews.
Check out the full episode.
Peace.
And happy holidays.